The choice to be more is always there, and you have to understand that as much as you want to complain, blame, and disregard the responsibility of making the change, you have to understand that the opportunity to grow is as potent and as much of a potential as the opportunity to stay an addicted, low-level piece of shit. And so every day when we wake up and we pursue the best version of us, the intent is to grow in moral character, is to grow in every aspect of life, is to grow physically, mentally, spiritually, financially by working towards your goal, compounding yourself into the individual who will get the shit done. Now, most of you guys, this is where, you begin to become a failure, is you guys fail to recognize the fact that you guys are wasting time. You're wasting your life. And so we can scream, we can yell, we can shout, we can call you a bitch, we can say every fucking word in the cuss word dictionary, but in the actuality, factuality, and fucking reality, the only thing you need to do is recognize your flaws and then persist in the endeavor of rearranging and reframing them to a positive outcome, to redirect yourself into a higher state of being, a higher state of motion. What does that mean? To be a higher quality thing. You have to understand that quality is a thing. What is your qualitative state of motion? Are you a high quality individual? You have to understand that your actions reflect the quality of you. And so if you're out here drinking, smoking, if you're out here wasting your time, if you're not building anything with your life. And so, I've called people subordinate, but this is the truth about how I feel about it, right? So I've called people slaves before. You guys know that I've used that word. I throw that word around like a fucking flamethrower, right? Because that shit hits deep. But it's not the job that makes you a slave. It's the lack of will to break free from the chains of mediocrity. So you have to understand that every day you have the opportunity to choose to grow. You have the opportunity to build something, to create with your life. And so you're a slave when you disregard the creation aspect of life and then depend on externalities other than yourself to sustain your life, to sustain your existence at an optimal, maybe, a bit less than optimal, form of, existing. And so when you have the opportunity to grow, when you have the opportunity to build, construct, and individuate into something more than you are, but you sit here in this comfort zone and you stagnate, and you're a slave to the addiction, you're a slave to your job, you're a slave to the 9-to-5 because you need it to feed the desires that you have. It's not that you're a slave because you work. You have to understand that work is a very high quality thing. To have work, to work on yourself, to work. You have to understand that having a job is working on yourself if you're channeling it in the right direction. You have to understand that you can go into a job and extract the resources and channel that into yourself. You have to understand that when you get that paycheck for $800, $1,000, you put $500 into yourself for your development. You get the gym membership, you get the macro count, you get on the program. You use these things as resources to fund your evolution. You have to understand that being broke is a low quality trait. And so if you're poor, if you're broke, you have to understand that being poor is being a low quality individual. Being broke is not having any resources to fund yourself. And so you have to understand that when you're broke and you're in this scarce mindset, life gets very difficult. It gets, 10 times more difficult than to get shit done. Now you have to go to the park instead of a high quality gym. And that right there is capping your evolution. You are now limited to what you are lacking, and you are lacking money. And so when I call people a slave, you are a slave to what you do not control, what you depend upon, what you are chained to. If you are subordinated, meaning you cannot coordinate yourself and redirect your will to what you will, if you are doing stuff against your will, for periods of time that, is now making you into a negative person, you are now turning and becoming dead within. When we look in your eyes and we see a soulless individual, you have to understand that that individual is selling their soul for comfort, and they're using their job as a tool to fund that demolition of their soul. And so when we call you a slave, it's because you are doing nothing for yourself, but you are doing everything for everything else. And so you have to understand that the moment you begin to work on yourself, you are not a slave. You are self-employed. You are working for yourself. Your job is you. And so if you get a job and extract the resources to channel that into you and whatever you need to get by in life, you are not a slave, because a slave is, the lowest to the low, right? And that's why the word hurts. And so we have to truly understand that if you're going to sit here and you're going to slave away, redirect that energy into yourself. You are the work of life. Become the work by instilling the worth through the work, and break free from the chains that hold you down. To be a slave is to be chained to all these different things. You have mental chains that keep you stuck to the addiction, to the weed. You can't even quit if you wanted to. The vape, the drink, the fake ass fucking friends. You're a slave. You don't even need to be working a 9-to-5 to be a slave. You can be a slave if you can't quit your addiction. You're a slave if you want to get better in life. You want to do something more, but you decide to neglect that responsibility and keep yourself stuck to what you don't want to be stuck to. And this is where we have different levels of slavery. You're a mental slave, and you're witnessing me break free. And, the only thing I can do to you is give you the torch, and hopefully you can pass it along. You have to understand that if you want to do anything with your life, you're going to have to become the work. And so the more you develop and work on yourself, the more you evolve within, and the more you can develop that character, the more you can refine yourself, is the more, valuable you become, and that will reflect into your existence. Most of you guys just go through life as slaves. And so, when we call you a slave, it's not that your job makes you a slave. What makes you a slave is all the mental chains that you neglect to break free from when you want to. What makes you a slave is to have something you will, to neglect what you will for quick term pleasure, for being a low level piece of shit. It's very fucking simple. So you have to understand that when we call you a slave, it's not because you work, it's because you neglect the responsibility to work on yourself. So to be a slave is to be tied to these chains that you want to break free from, because that's what a slave is. It's not that you work a job, it's that you neglect the job of life, which is you, to refine yourself through time, to grow and evolve as an individual. And so you guys throw around the slave term, you guys want to copy me, but you don't even know where the fuck it came from, and you're most likely a slave to yourself. You're a slave to your lower desires. So reflect on the individual in the mirror. Again, I said it starts with reflection. Who the fuck are you? What the fuck are you doing? Before you call someone else a slave, what do you have to break free from? You guys are, seeing everything wrong because your frequency is all fucked up. It starts with the habits. Look in the mirror and reflect on your fucking habits, because your habits is a reflection of your soul. And if you want to sit there, pick up a vape, pick up a bottle to escape yourself, go right ahead. But remember what the fuck you are. Personal development, link in the description. The community has all the resources for you to grow as an individual, mindset, body, spiritual, whatever you feel like you need subconscious reprogramming. You have to understand that your identity is what ties you into these negative habits. So you have to change and reframe your mental image. We have nutrition. It's so many things in the community. Just go and check it out, and y'all take care. Peace.